This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Today we have another episode for you, and last week we discussed the onboarding process of hiring a remote team member, virtual assistant, right? And so this week we're going to actually go into depth of training a remote team member, because it's one thing when you onboard, right? That's an important part, first step, but it makes no difference if you don't train them and they go out the back door.
Yeah, so I think if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, I think it's important to watch that. We do have a company which we talked about, True Work Logistics, that provides remote team members based out of Mexico or the Philippines for businesses throughout the U.S. And so we have a lot of experience doing this, and the part that we play a big role in is obviously the onboarding, the hiring, finding the right people, putting them in the right seats. And then we do provide training and support after, they're placed with that company. But if you didn't get a chance to listen to that one, I recommend going back. It was episode 208. And we really talked about the significance behind a structured onboarding process. And so if you didn't see that, we provided some, watch it on YouTube too, because there's some video clips showing the process that we have built within our CRM that shows how we onboard new employees, even including remote team members. And it's very intricate, as far as like creating the culture ahead of time, the expectation, setting the expectation. So there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of pre-planned tasks that go into it. It's not just hiring them and letting them run. And that's which we talked about.
Which is what we talked about. But then also, like, Shawn and I have been through this, right? We've been in business a very long time, over 4 years now, and made a lot of mistakes. Hired people and didn't onboard them, didn't train them, and made a lot of mistakes in our career. And so now we actually finally have gotten it right. And so we want to give back to you guys and show you how you can also onboard and train properly so that your remote team members or your in-house employees stay with you long term.
Correct. So let's just jump into it, since it's hot in here. If you don't know, Houston is heating
summer.
Up, and we're getting our ACs replaced tomorrow, and right now it's hot. So we're gonna jump right in and just
Shawn's sweating. That's why.
That's fine. I recommend you watch this one or just listen to this one. Don't watch it. No, so number one, I think when you're training and remote team members, number one, understanding their role, right?
Absolutely.
And their responsibilities. Because how are you going to train them if you don't have the key? And we get that a lot, right? We get a lot of franchises and people that have, maybe it's their first employee ever. And they're just like, well, I need help. I'm drowning. I can't answer the phone. I can't get to everybody. I can't do all these emails. I can't do all these tasks. I just need somebody. But and then so they just want to hire somebody. And what do you usually tell them?
I usually say, first of all, we need to find what are your pain points in your business, and let's create a job description, right? If you don't know where to start, let's create a job description for this VA, so we can clearly define the expectations when we hire this VA, because it doesn't feel good when you hire somebody and they have no clue what they're doing. They're like, what do I do? I'm afraid to ask, and it's uncomfortable. Right. So I start with them clearly defining that and creating a job description for them.
Yeah. So it's going to outline the roles, the responsibilities, their goals, their KPIs.
KPIs,
should have metrics to. Because once you create the responsibilities and roles and tasks, then you should how are you going to measure those month in and month out? So how are you going to make sure they're completing what they're supposed to? So all of that you want to pre-build ahead of time before you even start with the employee.
Yep. And you want them to sign off on it as well, because you don't want to go 90 days down the line and then they're like, well, I was never told that. You didn't tell me I was expected to do this.
Correct.
Right.
And then step 2 would be, creating a customized training plan for that employee. So, it's part of our onboarding process when we onboard new people, is that the manager will create a training, their first training 30 days, outline what they're going to do for the first week, the second week, who they're going to sit with, who they're going to train with, what they're going to learn. And it's a tailored training program for that virtual assistant, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what we're doing is identifying, utilizing their skills and their skill set, and then how can we best utilize, or what based upon their responsibilities and roles, how do they learn best? How do they, what videos are they going to watch? What things are they going to do in person? And so really think about it, put some time and energy into how you want to train them.
Yeah. And I think you also need to, each individual learns, different paces, right? And different styles. And so I think it's important for you to really have that one-on-one time with them to know, like, how do they learn, right? Do they learn on video? Do they hands-on training? Maybe do a combination of the two, to make sure that they clearly know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd recommend watching 208 again, because we talk about, we send some emails ahead before the employee even starts, and it asks them some of those questions like nicknames, favorite candy, stuff, just to get them known, but also in there, how they learn best, how they, there's some specific questions onto, like, how do they train and learn new things, to them? What do they enjoy doing? And so you kind of create that customized training plan around that. And so something that we do at True Work Logistics is, before we ever onboard a remote team member to a company, we send them through 2 weeks of training. So they're going to be trained on, and this is important because this is going for, even if you don't use our company to find a remote team member, you just find it yourself, use a different company. This is things you should be asking or should be doing yourself. We go over, before they go with the company that we outsource them to, we will teach them phone etiquette, customer service skills. Because a lot of that is like, don't assume that these people, that people know exactly. I think people just assume too much. Like, they just assume that, like, well, hey, I got this person from this company that they're going to just be a plug and play. I think we talked about this last week. And we'll set, like, hey, how do you write proper emails? How do you, and because a lot of these people are in different countries. So number one, just making sure that it's the way you want to present your company to your clients. How do you want them to answer the phone? What customer service skills do you want them to have? What do you want? How do you want, how do you want them to greet them? How do you want them? And so outline all that. So we do that in our company, and we train them on all that. They'll go through a test. We service a lot of property management companies. So they'll go through fair housing course, and we have a fair housing course that they had to pass before they can even be presented to clients, just so they know fair housing laws and fair housing rules, so they're not breaking or violating anything. Then they'll go through specific training on softwares that either related to the property management. We do a lot of service-based to construction companies or plumbing companies or maintenance companies, and so we use like ServiceTitan to train them on ServiceTitan and how to handle that, how to go through that system. So number one, they'll get a good Outlook, Microsoft products. They'll get all that updated before they ever get placed with the building. And
we do that because we understand that the business owners, a lot of times you're drowning, right? There's so much going at you, and you're drinking from a fire hose. And so we want to try to give the VA a good foundation before they move on to the company. That way, when they do move on to the company, you can focus on the training, like actually their job description, what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, right?
So they'll receive general knowledge ahead of time, just standard skill sets. And then once they're placed with a company, so if you're hiring somebody from a company like ours or somebody else, you should plan to spend another 2 to 3 weeks training them on your specific, how you run your business, what softwares you want them, because not everybody's different, whether even in property management space, there's several softwares. There's some people use Slack, some people use Teams, some people use Health Scout, some people use Lead Simple. There's a bunch of software, so you're going to really want to train them for you and your company.
Exactly. And you got to know that training, guys, never ends. Like, it's ongoing. Just know that it's going to be ongoing, right? As you have new products coming in, and sometimes, quite frankly, they forget, right? And we have to mention it 7 or 8 times before they get it. So it's just a constant thing that you have to spend time training them.
Correct. And then utilizing technology for training. So with True Work Logistics, TWL, we use, I'm going to go blank.
Microsoft Teams?
No. What's the videos platform that we have them watch?
Tortle.
Tortle. Man, had a brain fart there. So, Tortle. So we have put all our videos in Tortle, and it's pretty cool because you can have videos, you can have questions after they watch the video to question them to make sure they pass, they pay attention. So within TWL, we use Tortle to train the VA, and that's where they see the fair housing. That's where they see different customer service videos, and it's pretty cool. Brett's really worked to build out that platform, and really created a tool that, and we call it VA Go within our company. That's the Tortle is just the back end where it's built on, but VA Go is the branding that we use to teach and train our remote team members. But it's pretty cool because you can use AI these days, and so you can create the content you want them to learn, and you can have AI like bots or people, right? It's tired. Yeah. We can have like Joni with a guy's voice, or something. You can just get creative. You can use like celebrities and then and then they have different voices that you can use to, they're the ones that outline and speak and talk. And it's pretty cool. You can get real creative with AI these days to utilize that.
And I think this is a good point that you made. Yes, we do this for our company, but for the companies out there, I think this is huge. Like the more that you can, develop like videos and content that you can save, the better, because as you hire new employees, you don't want to have to recreate that. Right. And so create it once, and then of course, if you need, and that's what's the beauty about the AI also, if you have to update something, say there's a process that you need to update, well, you can quickly go in there and, change out a few things and update it and it's there. Yeah. Right.
Correct. And then so along that same lines of what Joni is mentioning, video conferencing. So I don't know what you're using, but just especially if you're just like, this might be your first employee, and you're going to go virtual because of the cost savings. You plan on investing a little bit in some kind of virtual video conferencing. So I recommend, like Microsoft Teams. That's what we use because number one, it's a communication channel for a team internally, but also we can call each other, at any time and have a video conference. So rather than walking down the hall to somebody and I can just call them on Teams, so create this in your culture. This is what we're talking about too. We require everybody to be on video. So it's just a requirement. So we'll have a video talk. We'll just chat like I'm face to face with them, and we'll just do it through video. And if I'm screen sharing something, and that's the other thing, I can screen share. So I can just jump on share my screen. I can walk them through a process. I can train them that way. And so a lot of our training is actually done virtually. There's through screen share. But the other cool thing is use like a Microsoft Teams, you can record it. But if you don't have that feature, or if you're just recording and you want to send them a video, use like Loom or one of those video recording softwares and record it also that, like Joni mentioned now. So if you're training somebody and you think this is going to be beneficial for them to watch later or somebody else, record it and then share it with everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I highly recommend that. And one thing about Microsoft Teams, it's one platform. So for your video, your phone calls, your files, like everything can be stored in there. So that's one thing with business, right? Sometimes we have multiple softwares. It's nice to just have to work out of one communication tool.
Correct. And then anything else on software that I forgot to mention? No.
No, I think you did. We talked about the CRM last week. So again, if you didn't watch 208, watch that because we go in detail with our CRM.
Yeah. And then on the job training. So, this is, I think, critical. And this is probably in the past, we used to just throw people into the job and say, hey, learn as you go. And you're either going to figure it out or you're not going to last. But
that's not the best way to handle it.
No. And it creates bad habits. You don't know what's being taught sometimes, because that was a big thing too, that we made a mistake in the past was, I think we did a lot of just throwing people in, and they would learn from maybe people that we didn't realize were teaching the wrong thing, and so like it just carries on. It's like they might have one bad habit, and then all of a sudden that it just, they do it a little different. And then they're here a year or two, and then they teach somebody, and they have now 2 bad habits, and they teach that, and it just carries on. Where if you create a structured training program that you created, and you know it's the right one, or you use a team member and they help you create it, at least that's what's being taught every time. So everybody's doing the same process and all that. So,
and it helps with accountability as well, because I mean, if you just let them, you give them something and let them run, and then you don't follow up with it, then, when it comes down the road, they're like, man, like, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Right. Which is what a lot of business owners have problems with, accountability.
Correct. And so utilize like a good, project management software. So like, we use Lead Simple as our, cause it's our CRM, our, email box, and our project management. So, process management,
right,
whatever you want to call it. But all of our tasks and processes are built into that. And so that helps streamline, because then everybody's running the same processes. And, so I'd highly recommend that as well. Some kind of tool. There's several out there. But on job training, so we, in our own company, outside of TWL, like say we hire somebody from TWL for our RPM business, they will also train in our RPM with people for 2-3 weeks. So they'll rotate. So they'll not only learn from somebody that does their specific role or their specific job duty.
Yeah, but they're cross-training in different departments, so that they fully understand how the entire,
so how their job impacts other people and all that. But we do a lot of odd job training. So they'll, like, say accounting, we've had a new person over the last month, and she has been working with the other accounting team members on collections, on recording payments, doing owner draws. And she did her first owner draw at the end of last month herself. So she was learning, but she had somebody backing her that does it on a day-to-day, just watching her to make sure she doesn't miss a step or understands it. So also you got to do that. And it can be with the virtual, you utilize, again, like a good screen sharing or video conferencing, and you can do it they do that all day. Jay, who's one of our better trainers, he's virtual, and he trains a lot of people.
Right.
And so he just shares his screen all day, and they just watch him. And so he's going through his steps, telling them why he does what he does, or how he's doing it. And they're just watching and taking notes. And so
absolutely,
it can be done all virtually. Just feedback and evaluations would be the next step. So,
which I think this is
probably
one. Yeah, it's probably one of the most crucial parts of it, because I think a lot of times we don't give that feedback. You don't give your employee feedback, and you don't get feedback from them, right? So the constant feedback is extremely important, and the evaluation. So doing your 30, 60, 90-day reviews, right? Because we also want to make sure that they're progressing. If they don't, then after 90 days, it's probably not a good fit.
Correct. And so but you don't know unless you're providing feedback to both sides, because they could be thinking you're thinking they're doing horrible and they're not learning, and what are they doing? It seems like they're not getting anything done, and they could be thinking they're doing a perfect job. And so if you need to set those expectations. So watch 208, we show you how we send out a 30, 60, 90-day review. We sit down with the client. The team member, we will evaluate each other. And in most cases, not only are you giving the feedback to the employee, but the employee is giving feedback to you.
Right.
What did they enjoy in their training or onboarding? What didn't they understand? And so you can give feedback to where you can improve as a manager as well. And so,
absolutely.
But you need to do that. And then from there, we go to quarterly check-ins. So after the first annual review, they'll set their yearly goals. They'll go over a full yearly review, but then we're going to set check-ins every quarter.
And this a common question that I get often, because we get a lot of smaller companies that maybe this is their first employee that they're hiring. Like I don't know if I have time to meet with them, and every once in a while and to do these things. But I recommend that the first 15 minutes of the day, you conference in with them and, go over priorities for the day, go over stucks, right? And if you just make that a habit every single day, first thing in the morning, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And so that leads me into our next step, which would be continuous learning and development, right?
Right.
It never ends.
Nope.
And it's hard. I know trust me, I'm the number one person that wants to just build it, create it, and just set it and forget it. And just, I want to be done with it and not move on. But that's not how employees or people work. They're constantly, you're constantly having to teach and train and develop them.
Develop them, empower them, right? Yeah, they're going to make mistakes. That's just part of it, right? But, you don't have to control everything. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think we have to do everything ourselves, right? Because we either don't trust anybody else to do it, or we think that, they can, or we can do it better than anybody else. And that's not the case, right? So, let go, develop your team so that they can be better leaders. I mean, we've had RTMs that started off, as entry-level people that are now managing, right? Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, but you gotta empower them. You gotta encourage them. You gotta develop them. You gotta train them. And it takes time, but it's constantly training and developing. So, include them in leadership or training,
any of the meetings really. And that's the biggest thing right there. Like, if you want to treat your remote team the exact same way that you would your in-house employees. So if you have team huddles, right, make sure your team huddles are done virtually so everybody can get the same experience, right? Any of the meetings, make sure you're including your remote team as well, because they are part of your team. They're a huge part of your team.
So and just have that mindset. And I know it's hard because sometimes, we try to include, so if you're having a lunch for the office, make sure you're having a lunch in a room that has a camera and everything so people can conference in and join, and try to include them. A lot of our meetings have went where we used to meet in a conference room. We now just meet at your desk because we want to include everybody. And that's just the way it is because we have so many remote team members. So you're going to have to figure out and maybe alter some of the ways you're doing things.
Right.
And then just provide support and mentoring, I think, is important. So like you said, might be a daily check-in. It might be a weekly check-in. Set their expectations and roles. And so like, I know you a lot of times especially when you're getting a new person started, you like to start with them with their priorities and goals for the week. And then you'll kind of meet with them at the end of the week and just see how they did, how they performed. If they have any questions, especially if they're newer in their role. And then we have, I would have some kind of communication like chat software that you can communicate really quickly back and forth with people, because that's how they're used to it. So a lot of them are, younger generation, they're used to texting or sending messages. And so it's an easy way to communicate back and forth rather than sending emails or calling.
And make it fun. We make it fun sometimes with the training. We have our customer service workshops that once, I think we went to bi-weekly, but we'll read books together, right? And it's amazing. Like I'm like, man, like they get some really good feedback, some of the remote team members, and they're engaged in it, and they're eager to learn and grow, right? And so, make it fun.
Yeah. Well, right now we're doing, we implemented a new software last year. And so we're still learning, still making improvements and changes and adoption. And so, we went to a weekly meeting for just meeting an hour within each department that a specific task or role in this software is utilized. And so we're, meeting just to go over it, defining it, redefining it, or making some fine edits to maybe emails or tasks that come out of it. But it's good. And they have they're the ones that are doing it on day to day. So they have a lot of value to add. And
sometimes, and I think that, we assume, you said that earlier, we assume a lot of times that everything is fine, right? Nobody's saying anything, so everything is fine. But sometimes when you open it up in like smaller groups, employees tend to open up. All right, this process isn't working correctly, so we need to redefine that, right? But so sometimes when you work with them small and individual groups, as opposed to a big huddle where everybody's afraid to speak up, you're like, there's no stucks today. Like, there's got to be a stuck, right? Yeah. But then you go in a smaller group and there's a whole bunch of stucks.
Yeah. So people open up with them smaller, and sometimes if you're just one-on-one, people just need a one-on-one.
Right. And that's why I think it's important to have a mentor, which we go in our onboarding process, is because that mentor will get out of them if there's an issue, right? Like what's on your mind? Let's talk about this.
Correct. So I hope that helped. I recommend not making an ass of yourself, and don't make assumptions, right? So
Yes.
don't assume anything. So make sure you're training, make sure you're putting a good plan together, and working that plan. So just remember that if you're not developing your team, then they're most likely going to not perform well, and they're probably going to leave at some point. So I know it's constant effort. I know it's a challenge as a business owner, as a manager, but just know that you got to keep developing your team, keep investing in them, and watch what they can do. So remember, they're the ones that work and grow your company. So it's important to make that investment.
Absolutely. And I want to throw out there, because I talk to a lot of business owners, and this is something that a lot of people struggle with. So if you're struggling with it, feel free to reach out. We'll put my Calendly link in the show notes. That way, if you want to, sit and discuss your pain points in your business and how we can maybe help you, we'd love to do that.
Awesome.
So,
well, thank you guys for listening, and please share this. Please rate it, and we'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there, talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.